everyone. Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salud, salud, salud. Cheers. Oh, yes. Yes. Coffee really, really good this morning. Yes, sir. And so is our show. We have an amazing show today. We have one of our regular collaborators in the house. Yes, sir. But before we bring him in, let me just say that we are going live. Yes, sir. We are going live through our Facebook page, Master Frank Soto, Kinetic Dragon. Just click on the Kinetic Dragon right there. And please like the page or follow us. That really helps us a lot, okay? It helps us to keep on going, okay? So please do so. Also, if you like the videos, like and share this video, okay? That also helps us a lot, everybody. If you don't like the video, if you hate our guts, then share it to your enemies. Yes, but share it, please, please. Send it to somebody you don't like or somebody you want to piss off. Yes, send them the video. Yes, that's good. That also helps. Thank you. So we're also going live to the International Hall of Fame of Argentina. Okay, this is a nice page, a nice group of people. They have their magazine. They're still printing on paper. They're doing a lot of things for the martial arts down south. Yes, sir. And they have a big following. And the leader is Master Juan Martin Alvarez. Saludos al Master Juan Martin. Thank you, sir, for supporting us. Okay, we're also going live on our YouTube channel, the Kinetic Dragon channel. Please subscribe and click on the little bell if you want to get notified when we are going live. Okay, remember, we go live with Coffee and Martial Arts every Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific daytime. Okay, so please join and leave your comments. Okay, we are here for you, so please leave your comment or ask your question. Anything you want to ask, it's okay. If it's too bad, we're just not going to put it there, but we might say something in the comments. But we just want to keep this positive. Okay, the whole idea of this show is to share some positive ideas and knowledge and experiences in the martial arts. Okay, for everybody that's watching through these hard times, get some, nice thing going for them for the rest of the day. Okay, so also, I gotta say, we've been sharing some videos, so I'm gonna share a little piece of video right now. Okay, here we go.
Originally from Hawaii, Mr. Parker developed this new and practical martial art by studying not only the linear motions, which were emphasized by James Matozzi, but also the flowing circular characteristics of Chinese martial arts, which Mr. Parker learned from William Chow, his main teacher. Coupling those two approaches with Mr. Parker's own experience of Western discipline.
Okay, so here that it is. That's the Tribe of Parker documentary video that they're developing. You can hear the voice narrating of Master Roy McDonald from the Jersey Island, and he's going to be in the show on the 19th. It's going to be a Friday. We're going to do a little switch that week for him to be on Friday. Usually on Fridays we have our Budo no Seishin section, but we're going to do it that week. We're going to do it on Thursday, and we're going to switch because Mr. McDonald can only do it on a Friday, and we are very happy to have him on the show as we do with everybody else. So we'll talk more about this. Also this weekend on our show of Open Mat Talks, we're going to have Master Sasha Williams from Kenpo from Fresno, California. He's going to be sharing some of his experiences and the knowledge of Kenpo and experience with Mr. Parker. Okay, so today we have my good friend and maestro, the one and only, tough as a nail. Yes. Tough hombre from the streets of Liverpool to the alleys of LA and Hollywood. Oh, yes, sir. The master of disaster, Mr. Brye Cooper.
How you doing, pal? Top of the morning to you. How's it going? That's what it's the streets of Liverpool, the rough trough there, so what have you, and then the streets of Hollywood. It's a little bit more affluent and softer streets. How you doing today?
Good, sir. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate, every time you come to the show and we get to talk and share all this, this street combative approach, the reality factor and all that stuff. I think it's really important to, like we were talking a little bit before, to bring or to update, the version of the arts, Kenpo, or whatever art, always keep on evolving, and put it in the context of today. And I think you're one of the guys that do a great job with that, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. I think for the audience out there listening, what we were actually talking about was what I found is a lot of people don't want to shift into that sort of realm because they feel like if they're leaving behind their base art, Kenpo, and all the time and effort they put into it, and that's actually, it's not true. It's the opposite, because that is the foundation of any self-defense system that you may develop, like what I did, like what yourself did, like you yourself did, and I just saying, people don't, if you want to do that, because it's a good business to have too, is to have your schools and what have you, you're teaching your curriculum, and then we have the I guess what I'm going to say is the differentiation between the two, and then you may want to teach self-defense classes, like whether it be women's self-defense class, co-ed self-defense class, wherein they're not going from white to black belt, they just want effective self-defense in a few weeks, actually with the first day, the first lesson, and
right.
How important that is. And and the only difference is that the big difference is that with a self-defense system like that, it has to be when you're developing that for time and efficiency's sake, it has to be reductionist, congruent, and they have to be in harmony with that, because you want to be doing more with less. You know what I'm saying? So whereas when we're doing our curriculum in American Kenpo, which is fantastic, obviously that's what we do, that's who we are. We actually have a lot of stuff, but then we have more time because we know we're on that journey. If that makes any sense to it, well, I'm sure it does. We know that we're not leaving in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's a life's journey. We're going to black belt and then hopefully above that.
Right. It becomes a lifestyle, right?
It's a lifestyle, which self-defense does too. I mean, we have that term in Street Kombative system. It's the DLM, defensive lifestyle mindset.
Right.
But we're learning different things. It's a lot more about environmental awareness and deeper into that, the soft skill sets that we talked about before, avoidance and stuff like that, and how to recognize atmospherics and so on and so forth. Stuff that we don't really talk about, or most people don't anyway, when you're in your Kenpo class.
Right. Right. Agree. And I think, but that also needs to be addressed in your Kenpo knowledge, because every time I for example, one of the phrases that goes into my head when I think of Ed Parker's Kenpo or American Kenpo is the ultimate in self-defense, right? Well, that's how they sold it back in the days, right? So they sold it, they advertised it. They advertise it to the ultimate in self-defense. So if you're thinking about the ultimate in self-defense, you need to think about prevention. You need to think about prediction. You need to think about awareness. You need to think about many other things, right? And that part, it's the part that needs to be updated, because back in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't the same. The mindset wasn't the same, right?
It was different, yeah. Well, like Jane, I think we're telepathic, mate. I wrote this down, or that's to bring that up. Exactly what, in different words, but what you're just saying about that, the times have changed. Yeah, we look at one of the things I've found is not just myself, actually, and I know others go through this too, is when you approach things with a combative approach, like that mentality, it comes off really, really like violent and what have you, even though you're not hurt. Hopefully you're not hurting anybody, you're putting hands on, and I think it scares a lot of people, and like, oh, that's not what I signed up for. But the reality of it is it is what you signed up for. Like you just said, it was promoted as the ultimate in self-defense. Well, what does that mean? You can't half measure it. You can't. You're dealing with. I mean, we've talked about this before, but with and times are changing. It's becoming a lot more violent society today, especially here in the United States. Things are just topsy-turvy. If you're going into a system, I mean, we teach knife defenses and gun defenses and stuff like that. Well, that's about as real world as you're going to get, right? Maybe they need to be updated a little bit, or not so much updated. I don't think you need to update those techniques per se. You do, but just lessons in movement, lessons in in that.
Exactly.
It's important today that people recognize that times have changed. You know what I mean? And the days of fisticuffs, they're over. How many times you see video online like one-on-one, and it's one-on-one till one goes down, and then everybody else around kicking the down guy in the head? You know what I mean? It's what so. We'd have been taught to. So I'm trying to articulate this correctly without looking at notes. But when you learn that mindset, what you're more likely to, when you understand the level of violence and danger that you could be in, you're less likely to actually end up in danger or environment.
Yeah, because you can predict it. You're familiar with it. Because what I've seen, I mean, going with what you're saying, the people that are not, they don't accept violence in their surroundings. You need to accept the fact that you live in a potentially violent environment, right? That you could be mugged or attacked on the street at any moment, at any time. But people don't like to think that way. They like to deny that. You're right. They're in denial. Okay. So if you're in denial when it's going on, you don't see it. And I hear this. I don't know if you heard this, but I hear this comment a lot. Like when you see, and especially, and I hope nobody gets this wrong, but especially comes from women. And why? Because women are beginning to get more empowered, right? Which is good, but some of them, not everybody, they still don't understand how it works. And they say things like, I have the right to walk on this sidewalk, for example. I have the right to walk through here, and I have the right to wear whatever I want to wear. Yes, you do. But the bad guy, the problem is he doesn't care about your rights, your civil rights, your human rights. He's just going to, go over them, right? So they're walking on the street and they see, I don't know, a group of, potential, bad guys, right? And you can tell when you understand violence, you can tell, those are predators and you don't want to go there. But then there's, I have the right to go there, and they keep on walking. Let's just go across the freaking street and walk on the other side, right? Just don't expose yourself. But that has to do with this I'm right mentality and you're wrong. And even Mr. Parker said it, right?
Indoctrination, societal indoctrination is what we're going through right now. Yeah.
And even Mr. Parker said it on the street. It's not who's right, but who's left that counts, right? That was the message right there.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like we're also like that's one of the major things that we see changing today is the societal indoctrination. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that word in a bad, negative way, because to indoctrinate somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you're being given bad info or, it could be good stuff. But the thing of it is we're empowering people without understanding what it is they're being empowered into. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's good, especially for the women. I mean, women are great to teach anyway because they learn fast, they listen. You know what I mean? They learn quicker, or they used to. I'm sure they still do. But whereas guys are like, well, I always done it this way, and sometimes you have a bit of a harder time getting through to them. Women do, but let's not make any misunderstanding. Look, when you're in a right. I was telling you here, I have like tips for, I put a few out here, tips I believe are valuable in any self-defense combative system that if you develop one. And, you want to develop a system that is look, when you get into a combat, it can be so violent that all your orthodox skills, this type of fighting that you've learned, just go out the window. All the orthodox skills you've learned in the martial arts schools, it goes out the window. It does.
Yes.
If you're bomb rushes you and there's on top of you really quick, you're not doing 5 swords, parting wings. You are when you learn to do it correctly.
Yes.
In that situation.
Yes.
It's important to apply pressure, because if you want to develop a system that's pressure based, this is just one of my rule number 2. It's pressure based because the standoff fisticuff reduces the rate of success to how skilled you are and your opponent is. Pressure reduces most attackers to a basic inherent ability, wherein they will almost always revert to the lowest level of training, even if that's just street training. I mean, they learned on the streets how to do, not even to fight, just to be an attacker. How many people do we see today getting released from prison, and released, and then they get repeat offenders? That's their training ground. I mean, people don't think about it that way. But that guy who keeps getting released for violent crime, well, that's his training. He's training himself. Right. How I can get away. What's my new environment? It didn't work in that environment. I'm going to try it in this environment. And unless one studies that and pinches that into the students, they're not going to look for it either. We live in a society today that what's the first thing that somebody pulls out to protect themselves? Majority of times, the first thing that, here I'll talk about America. The first thing that somebody pulls out to protect themselves in a violent or a potentially violent confrontation, what is it?
Gotcha.
You pulled it up. There you go. You pulled it up. Sorry, I'm looking. This is they go hoarding. What? That's just not going to say. But the reason I say that is because that's how far we've been indoctrinated into relying on technologies and false narratives. And when it comes to self-defense, you're obligated as an instructor. I feel I am anyway. I know you feel the same way. We're obligated to say, listen, this is the reality of it. I mentioned it to you before, but I've taught, especially women's self-defense classes out here. It's where I live. It's quite affluent, but times are changing. We're having a lot more burglaries, robberies. We've had shootings lately, which you never had out here. Muggings, violent assault, stuff like that.
I'm not going to talk about of my environment here in Mexico.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. It's complete. Yeah, and that's in a different world too. Well, here's the thing on that too. We're having a mass influx, and this is not before anybody jumps on that. That's not, you can't politically correct. We're having a mass influx of people coming from Central and Mexico. If you're if you're a true student of self-defense, you would have looked at. There's plenty of information, videos online of what goes on down there. Life is cheap.
The problem with migration. And I've studied this because of the use of force and all the courses that I've taken, is think of this. The person who had to move from, let's say, Central America, and they walk across 2 or 3 countries, right, with their families. Yep. They leave their comfort of their homes. They have to leave everything behind because it's not safe anymore. They have to, it's survival. So they're in a survival mode, right? And they're going through cities, and they're getting, everybody's pissed at them, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever city you go through in a group, there's hostility. So that's building, and they're going for that dream, the American dream. But it's not the American dream. It's not anymore about, succeeding and having money. It's just about surviving now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I just want to have an environment where my family can survive, not even thrive, just survive. Right. Yeah. So when they get there, and if they are able to go across the border, they're still in a survival mode, because they're not going to get to a place where everybody's going to say, yay, welcome to America. No, because people here are also in that I'm going to protect what I have mode. Right. And it's understandable. So it becomes it's a very difficult social phenomena that goes there. So you get all these people. Know. And they might not be criminals or anything, but since they're in a survival mode, they're going to have to steal, just for food. And I'm not trying to justify anything. It's just analyzing what goes on there. Yeah,
not to jump in, because and I know you weren't intending that. I don't want to make it so much. The reason I brought it up is it's not so much as those people. I'd say
no, but this 90%. This is important to understand from self-defense.
It is
awareness too. I'm not talking about the political stuff. It's just if we understand the motives of people behind, we can be more aware That's what I'm talking about, right? Because understanding takes fear away also, because we are always afraid of what we don't know, what we don't understand, right?
Yeah, that's the ego fear of it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I say that is it's not like you say. You have these families coming across, and good for them. You know, like you say, I'm an immigrant. You know what I mean, and I understand what it's the value of being in America. You know, but my point is when you have that mass influx of those states, those people are running from violent people, and a lot of those violent people are running from violence they've committed, and it's inevitable. It's going to come across. It's going to enter your society. It is. It's not the people with the families who are trying to better their lives. If we have an open border and we look at California, it's flooded with drugs and stuff like that. They just arrested a bunch. Actually, it was a worldwide sting. But the point I was trying to make is times are changing.
That's it. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, and you don't have the protections that you had anymore here, especially here that everybody wants to defund and get rid of police, which is nuts. But they're cutting it down, and we have a sheriff in LA now who's saying, I'm going to give more CCWs out, concealed carry weapon. That's not going to solve it. That's not. If you're at CCW, you've probably got about 5,000 violent felons. They're releasing 75,000 more inmates out of the jails here. The reason I say that is, again, I'm not being political. Like you said, it's a self-defense thing. Well, those guys, a lot of them are repeat offenders. And political correctness is not going to save you. It's not. No matter where you're from. I mean, the guy could be coming from England as a felon or Russia or where. It's not really the point. The point is now is that I think all over the Western world, times are changing. So an example would be, like I said, about the CCW. I was having a conversation with somebody about this in a defensive gun group I'm a member of. And they were saying, this guy's out in Florida, but he was saying, oh, yeah, it's great that, the sheriff's giving out the CCWs. Standing up for the Second Amendment rights, which I'm a big advocate for. But the thing of it is that's not going to solve the problem. Because what are you going to do even if you get that? I mean, I tell people this all the time. As you know, I'm a certified firearms instructor. When people ask me, I'm afraid I want to get a gun. Men too, not just women. I have to say to them, okay, you do understand if you get that gun, you're going to use it to kill somebody, right? You're not going to. It's not a dart. It's not a taser. It's a firearm. It may be a 22 small round LR 22. Well, it may be a 45.
We have a different. When I teach the police, we tend to teach a different mindset. But it's kind of like what you're saying. But
just finish the points on it. Hold the thought. Sorry, let me just finish the point on it.
Oh, sorry. Go. Sorry.
I know we're simpatico, but just for the audience, just in case you're thinking, oh, we're all gunfighters. No, I'm not at all. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I'm going to say the opposite right now. And this goes back into even empty hand self-defense, whether you're using blades or whatever, if you're going to take that on, that you have to have the mindset to use it and understand the consequences of your action. In California and in most of the big cities in America now, the criminals has more rights than you do. That's a fact. If they didn't, they wouldn't be releasing them immediately. You can commit a crime now. When we've had so many times of murderers, they've done time, committing violence, released again, and within days they've done it again. And so to be in denial, what I call elective denial, because people elect to be in denial now. They're like, oh, I don't want to hear it. They bury their head in the sand. It's my obligation as an instructor to say, hey, I'm going to snap you out of that denial, or don't train. Because if you don't train, you're probably more likely to run away. And if that's what saves you, that's what saves you.
Right.
If you are going to train, you have to understand the dynamics of what's going on. This is not the dojo. You know what I mean? The techniques that we learn, whether it be in, Kenpo, Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, Tang Sudo, all these great arts, if it's a close quarter CQB situation and you get swarmed or just jumps on you, you have to have years of training, which develops the mind in order to hopefully combat that. For somebody who just comes in, who doesn't have any of that kind of training, then you have to have in my opinion, You have to have a system, like I said, that is reductionary and congruent and effective, doing the most damage with the least effort. And the only way that an individual is going to be able to do that is if you develop the mindset to.
Okay. I wanna, and I only do this with you. I don't do this with my guests, but I want to generate a little bit of controversy here. I teach the opposite. Yeah. I teach exactly the opposite of what you're saying. I teach systems that requires the most effort to generate the least damage. Because I teach police officers. If you're teaching police officers, you cannot teach them that, to generate the most damage with the least effort, because the police officer is going to get in jail. So same thing happens here in Mexico. So what I teach is you need to train as hard as you can and be as skillful as you can to be able to handle someone without hurting them. That's the protector mindset. And that's even harder. That's hard.
Yeah.
And I also, and the other thing, I know you're, I'm going to give you, let me just say, so because I like this, I'm picking on your brain. Okay. I'm not trying to go against you, sir. You know that, because this,
I know.
This helps a lot. And it helps for the people that are watching too. So for example, when we talk about firearms, we don't talk about killing. We talk about what are firearms for, to save lives. And the mindset is completely the opposite. If you think it that way, it's going to be easier for you to use the gun if you're not familiar with violence. If you're a violent man or a woman, then you don't have a problem. But we're trying to get, for me, the way I understand it, violence is not the answer. It's not fire with fire. It's not violence with violence. Why? Because if you live in an environment like I do here in Mexico, Mexico, you've seen the documentals. They are true, and it's actually worse than what they're putting on TV. It's really bad. So it's really bad, but actually, if you're going on your daily lives here in the city, you don't get to see it that much. It happens, but it's
sheltered from it a little bit.
It's so much part of your reality that you're like, and that makes it even worse. But anyway, if you understand that, if you're living around that level of violence, you understand it doesn't matter how well you are trained, you're not going to survive going violence with violence, because you don't have the resources, the people, the weapons, or anything to go against that type of violence. You just can't. It's going to overwhelm you. So you need to think in other type of ways, And so here, a lot of it is, how to talk to people, how to be nice, how to, comply without submitting. For example, how hard it is for you to comply against somebody trying to abuse you and not getting pissed and being under control and controlling the situation while the other person thinks it's an advantage, for example. That's something you have to learn here. That's something you have to learn here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I just want to clarify too. Yeah, by the way, we're on the same page.
I know. I'm just, that's why this is interesting. I love this.
Out there, what I'm saying is to do less with more, not to do more damage. You know what I mean? So what I mean by that is, and I know you know, but for those who are listening, is I'll give you an example. If I don't know, pick a Kenpo technique would be, pick a Kenpo technique besides 5 swords. I don't know. What would be good? Like a close quarter. Like, again, let's say parting wings. I love that technique. Actually.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
I'll do it from a grappling situation where they're on. Well, I mean, I'll do it from both, but I'll do it from a grappling situation where, because you don't know what's going on. You may even just be trying to get in a nightclub or something. You're trying to get away, and this person grabs you. Well, if you haven't trained for that, I guarantee you 100%, and you're not going to do parting wings because you don't understand biomechanics, the mental of how to make it work. It's actually easy. You have more structure because you're really tighter. It's economized motion. What I want to say is that it's understanding the mindset of the attacker. That's a big important part of our when I teach of self-defense training. This is where I'm getting to. Is if you understand the mindset, what they're capable of, then it raises your awareness level, and it, you know, Mr. Boggs said environmental awareness, right? But I think we said this before. There's also an awareness of awareness. I'm aware, but am I really aware?
Right.
You know, like you said, the example of the lady walking down the street, and she says, you know, I have a right to walk down here. Of course you do. Of course you do.
Sure.
But they don't care about your. And if you're not aware of the fact that they don't care about your rights, you're walking into the lion's den.
Exactly.
You know, what I mean?
That's the point. Yes. Yes.
And so you know, you're also saying about too is like with the firearms thing, just for me to clarify too, and that's a great thing for the police officers. They're trained to save lives, but they're also trained to save their own life.
Of course. Of course.
So how many officers do we
Your
know?
life is included, right? Yeah.
It's a constant here now of like, especially with the political climate, and then you can't avoid it because that's why it's getting more violent. We didn't have this type of stuff 12, 13 years ago. We didn't. I don't care what anybody says. But it's happened. It is what it is. So we see today more challenging of the police, more attacks on police. It's constantly people saying, you know, death by cop, suicide by cop, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me. And they'll run at that police officer and they'll drop them. Well, those officers have to live with that for the rest of their lives, you know, and that's not easy to live with for a lot of people. You mentioned the book earlier. I think we've talked before, Grossman's On Killing. And I think the fees, are you still there, mate? I think my feed froze. Still there? I'm not sure if everybody else can hear me, so I'll finish and we get reconnected. To understand mindset is what I'm getting at. Is understanding that mindset will. Hold on one second. Okay, so I keep on talking. Okay, good. So sorry, everybody. We lost Frank, or I lost Frank on this end here. So what I was getting at is it's learning to understand that mindset and not just the level of what when we start out in the dojo of like, oh, somebody's going to attack you with this right punch and you do this. I mean, oh, great, I'm looking good. If you understand the intention behind it and how deep that attack is going to be, then you're going to change your defensive approach. So I'm not sure what's going on with our feed here. Anyway, I tell you what I'll do. I'll read off some of this stuff. These are some of my tips for those of people who want to, you know, develop a separate self-defense system. These are just some tips that I have. Is like when you're developing and teaching a combative system, it's for time and efficiency's sake. For all good combatives programs should be reductionist and congruent. In combat, you need to be doing more of less. Always look for the things that can eliminate in your program. Thus, you can eliminate in your program, thus allowing yourself the ability to perform at optimum without the shackles of an overwhelming.
Sorry, man.
I'm just reading this off.
I'm sorry. Thank you. My computer just died on me. I don't know what happened.
No worries, mate. So, you know, developing your system, something that you can perform at optimum without the shackles of an overwhelming ideology or unnecessary technique application. This philosophy applies especially when developing and utilizing knife techniques and gun strategies and techniques. So I was just reading off the, you know, some of the tips I have in order to do that. Now, like I said before, in our system, I've developed certain emotion. We talked about emotions earlier. Drills that. Frank said something interesting. It was what he said. The emotions are the. How did you put it? Emotions are the
glue of memories.
The glue of memories. I talked of it as like emotions are the key to your memory bank, which is the same thing basically. And when you get emotional, the first thing that happens is you'll slip back into what's called an earlier similar, where you've been sort of in an incident earlier in your life and you either panicked or you overreacted or something like that. That just happens because you've gone outside your analytical mind and you're just in a reactionary state. A good self-defense system will teach you also, besides how to defend, how to control or not to eliminate it, because you're never going to eliminate it. It's there. Your experience is your experience. What's true for you is true for you. But if you control it in such a way, and I'm not saying again, guys, those people going through white to black belts are not, because you're spending a lot of time Eventually, you're going to have that anyway. But I'm talking about if you want to have a separate self-defense program, you have to have an intelligent system that people can comprehend, duplicate, internalize, and apply, and have confidence in. They're confident with it. Well, how do you shake somebody's confidence? You break the reality. You take them out of present time. And that's easy to do. You could just come up to somebody and go, and just get in their face. You see how people react to that. Well, that split second was going to throw your whole game off. All the orthodox stuff you've learned in the martial arts, it will, not for everybody, but I'm talking again about self-defense, people who are coming in who want to be effective pretty quick. So the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to work those psychologies of defense. I was going to say, Frank, we were talking about, you and I have been talked about this before, but there's a book called On Killing by Grossman.
Yes,
and
yes,
it's very validating. Yeah, it was very validating to me when I read it. And if you haven't read it, audience out there, it's not about how to go out and kill somebody. It's not about that at all.
No.
The first chapters, most of it is dedicated to the fact that as human beings, inherently, we won't do that.
Exactly. Yes.
And we shouldn't do that. We are social animals. We won't do that. So you can train really hard. Mike Pick said to me many years ago, actually, I'll just talk about it because I don't know if you want me to say this. It's nothing heavy, but I don't. That he will share that himself. But I'll just put it in my own words. And the same thing is out of that book. Let's say it's very hard. You can train really hard in a dojo. You can be the most aggressive person in there. You're winning trophies. You're beating up people in sparring, not deliberately, but you're winning all that. Blah blah blah. You're great. You look fantastic. You're confident. You walk in the streets. Something happens, and then bang, and it'll go out the window because you didn't train this.
Yeah, well, Tyson said it best, right?
Yeah, punch in the face. Yeah.
Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. But I want to say one thing, just briefly, and I gotta say this because I don't want people to get the wrong idea, and I know you think the same way. It's not about becoming a violent person. We're not violent people. We're not. I mean, I don't see myself as a violent person. I know you're not a violent person. It's about becoming stronger, right? More resilient.
Yeah.
Tougher. You gotta toughen up, right? And change that mindset so you are prepared just in case someone that is violent attacks you, and you know how to deal with that. But it's not violence against violence. That's why I brought it up a little bit earlier, that thing, what I was saying, because I wanted to get there. The answer is not for you. I don't like, for example, and I read this a lot, the best way to go against violence is to have a good man or a nice guy who's good at violence. No, I don't agree with that. We don't have to be good at violence. We have to be good with the use of force. We have to be stronger. I think that's the answer. And that's what we're talking. That's why we train, right? If not, if you just wanted to become more violent, then go get a big stick and hit somebody in the head. But that's not the answer. That's not the answer, right? The answer is to learn how to handle your body, how to handle your mind, how to handle your emotions in a self-defense situation, so you survive it, control it, and not become the victim, right? So you have to be stronger, and that's why we train, right?
No,
because like there's a good saying that from the Navy SEALs that says, when you're when you're going into combat or battle or in a self-defense situation, you don't rise to the level of your expectations, you sink to the level of your training, and that's why we train so hard, right?
They'll sink to the lowest level of training if under stress.
If you have a high level of training, then you're right. But if you're not well trained,
exactly. And so that's what I'm saying to you is like, you go, this is exactly, that's the point. That phrase is I've heard that. Under stress, you will go to the lowest level of training. And so, like I was saying earlier, so in a self-defense system, that's why it needs to be reductionary and congruent. Because if your lowest level of training is effective, then that's okay.
Yes.
But if your lowest level of training is just overly thought out process, you'll just go back to what you did before you even ever got any training, because you're just trying to survive. And the thing is like Frank was saying, audience, is like, it's not about teaching you to be a crazy eye killer and walking around. Understanding violence. Listen, you should have a full conceptual understanding of it. Why you got into martial arts? Martial means military. Military means war. These are warring arts. These are techniques. Think about some of the techniques that we learn in American Kenpo and other systems too. If you look at them, if I really applied that with intention, it'd be deadly. And so we go.
The thing.
Well, what I'm going to say is, so you go, well, I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want it to be deadly. I only want to use that. God forbid, 1 in a million chance I'd be in that position, that I have that skill set. So, but by learning it, you have a higher awareness level. You avoid it more.
Yes.
You know, you can't.
Yes. It's about avoiding.
One of the things I put about in my manual, my beginner's manual here is on legalities and stuff like that, all this stuff, is the amount of times that people have given other people either the benefit of the doubt, or they didn't realize the severity of the situation they were in, even if it just means they got punched in the nose and nose broke, or just got hurt, because that's pretty severe. It's severe for anybody just to get hit. You know, nobody wants that. I don't want that.
No.
And then, of course, then there could be an extreme level of it, but if you understand, like I said, if you understand that and teach the students that part of it, it's the most, in my opinion, it's the most neglected part of martial arts training in any system, is teaching them to understand what it is exactly you're dealing with and how it's going to affect you. Yeah. It will affect you. It will affect the toughest guy in the world. And at a violent attack, or even it's got everybody. You could be Mike Tyson and me. And I walk up, and I've met Mike Tyson years ago, and I remember shaking his hand and thinking, damn, I mean, it's just this meat cleavers, you know what I mean? Could you defeat that? I don't know. But let's say if I ran up to Mike Tyson, and there's no way I'm going to defeat, Mike Tyson, I went, boom, and hit him on the chin, and he just shook it off. He's not going to go, you know what I'm telling you? That's really naughty. Don't do that again. Just because he has a higher skill set. No, he's going to turn on me and beat the shit out of me.
Right.
That's down. And so what's the answer? Don't do it. Avoid it. Stay away from it. But in order to avoid it, you have to be able to recognize what it is you're avoiding. And I think most people really don't. They get into the fantasy of like martial arts and the sexy of it.
Fantasy. There is definitely a fantasy there that you need to be careful, be aware of.
And like we started as we started the conversation earlier, I think that's why people don't want to. Not everybody. I mean, just a few. I mean, there's a lot of people doing what I'm doing. Again, I always say this because it's not like I'm the be all and end all.
No,
not at all. There's plenty just as good or better than I am at teaching this kind of stuff. And at least, But if you want to step out into an effective, and teaching that and developing that will also enhance your Kenpo. It does. It did. When I made that mind switch many years ago to like, you know what? And you don't have to have seen stuff on the streets or been active on done that kind of stuff on the streets to be able to make that shift. You don't. It's knowledge. Anybody can learn. It doesn't make you, just because you haven't learned to read and write doesn't make you stupid, right? It just means you haven't learned yet. Anybody can learn that. And so I put a heavy, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but it put a heavy emphasis on understanding the criminal mindset and the effects that it will have on you. And how you can counter that, and how you can nullify, or if not nullify, because that's kind of hard, and until you're actually in the combat, and then it is nullified. But how it can have a less of an effect on you in that situation, because you can get deer in the headlights syndrome too. How many people have just probably go, listen, I don't want any trouble. 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 Bang! Well, you got it anyway. If you don't want any trouble, just say I don't want any trouble. Go. But because the reason that they don't is because they're glued to the ground. Fear has frozen them. Fear of what? It's sort of lazy. There's an equation I used that I learned many years ago. And you could look at it in combatives and say, well, that's kind of lazy. Why didn't they just walk away? Laziness is nothing more than lack of confront. Lack of confront is nothing more than lack of knowledge, of knowing. You won't confront something you don't know anything about. Even to confront it by walking away. And so it's really important to study and I can never overemphasize that enough. It will affect your technique application too. Try developing stuff like that, or come to somebody like myself or somebody else who knows how to articulate it to you, like yourself. We're on the same page. Who knows how to articulate that to you, and then go and do a technique that you did the day before with this different mindset and this different intention. It will be completely different. You'll have a completely different understanding of it. If you don't learn how to do some ranging drills, and I have the ones that I do, people can develop their own and not do and then you have your attackers stay animated until you make them unanimate. You know what I mean? Try it. It's just all the difference in your training. You don't have to beat each other down to do it. It makes so much difference. If I throw a right-handed punch at somebody and just stop, and they know I'm going to stop, they'll look great, and they might hit me really fast too and hard, and oh, that's great, mate. I say, oh, let's try it again, and then I come up quick, and then I throw it, and I'm in your face. It's like, whoa, that visual alone. It's like boxing, learning head movements. Head movements isn't just to stay up and slip punches. It completely throws your opponent off. I mean, I do when I'm sparring all the time. If I'm feeling I'm getting a bit, I'm not getting younger. So if I'm moving with somebody who's quicker, younger, I'll go, all right, I can't do it physically because it's just too quick. I'll do it mentally with them, and I might just move my head, slip it a certain way. It'll completely throw them off, and then I'll shoot the shot and bang, bang, bang. And 99 times out of 100, it'll work against somebody who hasn't trained for it. You see what I'm saying? So it's important for us to train those aspects and those understandings.
Well, okay, let me just say, bring in the comments. We have people saying hello, and then I have something to say about what you were saying. Patricia Monzon says, good afternoon from Argentina. Salud. Saludos, Patricia.
Hello.
Ida de Vincenzo. Saludos from Buenos Aires. Gracias. Saludos. Maestro Joe Ribello. Hi, folks. Glad to be here. Thank you, Maestro. I hope you're doing well. Take care. Marce Tanquevera. Good afternoon. We say hello from Argentina. We salute from Argentina. Hello. Sifu Ernesto Colbrenner. Salud, maestros. Chinese Culture House, Santa Fe, Argentina. Hug from the heart. Gracias. Saludos. Master Merv Orman. Hi, Brye. Good to see you. Good to see you here again. Good to hear you again. Okay.
Thank you. Good to see you, mate.
Thank you. Sir Patrick Kennedy. Hi from all your friends in LTKK Ireland, and hello to Mr. Cooper, Sir Patrick Kennedy, Secretary of the LTKK Ireland. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Let's see. Don La, in my training, I do not focus on reacting to an attack. I just focus on how to move naturally in the most efficient way. Good, amazing. So yesterday I had another guest, Sensei Guillermo Salas from this side of defense, and he was talking about the 5 different levels. He categorized 5 different levels of violence or self-defense. He said, first you go against a bully, somebody who's just, like a brawler and who's trying to, pick up fights and stuff. That's like the first level of aggression, of self-defense that you have to deal with, right? Then you have a guy who fights every weekend or every other day, who's a street fighter. That's in a higher level that you need to learn how to deal with that. Then you go against somebody who's a professional. Like that's the 3rd level, he said, right? I think this was cool. So you have like this professional guy who knows whether martial arts or a fighter or any type of training, right? That's the 3rd level. Then the 4th level will be of violence or attackers will be multiple attackers, right? And then the highest level would be against somebody with weapons, right? So if you don't consider those, like if you get, like you were saying, you train your techniques and you get faced by somebody who doesn't really know how to fight, who just, and pushes you, yeah, you might be able to pop, 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 right? Just do the technique, parting wings or whatever, because you're not going to find that level of resistance or level of aggression, right? But let's say you get pissed at me and you attack me, and now I'm dealing with a professional, right? And I'm like, okay, now what, right? Are my techniques going to work? Am I going to say, look, I didn't train for this?
Yeah, very interesting, and he's right. So what's the common factor in all of that? What's the common factor in any of those 5 levels? But what do they all have in, is attached to all of them? The mind.
Sure.
The mind. That's it. They're just levels of physical violence, but it's all driven by something in here, right?
Sure.
And so we go, well, I'll simplify it in my approach to that, because he's absolutely right, and it's very good, interesting point. And so you go, well, I know I've trained to develop. I think I could handle the guy who just fights every so often. I can do that, but the guy that you just talked about, number 4 and 5, 3, 4, and 5, the street fighter who's fighting every day because he's his knucklehead, and then the other guy, and then the guy with likes weapons and all that. My hands are sweating thinking about it. I don't know if I could physically deal with that. And we see it all the time on video, like I said, as you know, and people don't have to do this because I do it for you. I study that stuff. There's plenty of video and footage online that you can see. If you don't have the stomach for it, don't even watch it.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I agree. We'll do it for you, yes.
Yeah. But with people who are very effective like that and coming at you at speed, it's very overwhelming to try and deal with that physically. They may be bigger than you, faster than you, just more experienced than you. So what's the common thing we have in common? The mind, right? I teach my students, one of the things I do address in SKS is what we call cognitive blink. And what a cognitive blink is it's like that moment. It happens a lot in military and law enforcement, to tell you this, where the gunfight starts, and for that split second, it's like a freeze. They freeze, but they don't freeze physically. I mean, they do, but their physical reaction is a reaction of the emotional state, like you were talking about earlier. That cognitive blink. So do I want to defeat you physically? I might not be able to. You know what I mean? I might, but I might not be able to. And even if I could, would it not be better to create this cognitive blink where that even if they don't realize it, in the moment have lost what we call present time awareness? I take them out of PT. Okay, even just by doing something that they wouldn't expect. You can do it you can create a cognitive blink on somebody. It has an opposite, it has different levels too. By creating fear in them, like just by standing up to them, and they'll take a beat. One of the first things I teach, one of the simplest techniques I teach, especially for the ladies in self-defense is, and I have them do this in groups, and I'll tell 2 people what I want them to do. I won't tell them what the other person's doing. But I'll tell the group and say, listen, this is what's going to happen, and this is how Sarah or Jane is going to react, or even Bob. This is how he's going to react. And they'll be like, oh, really? And you can see they're all thinking, well, how does he know that? We'll do the scenario, and guess what? They'll react that way every time. And it's not because I'm a genius. It's not. It's because inherently we all react the same way when put under certain conditions. If you can create a cognitive blink, you can't create a cognitive blink by posturing. A little bit you can, but not really. It doesn't. You're still cogniting. You're still aware. But if I can do something that gets inside your head and and scrambles your subtext a little bit, the script you wrote that morning in your head, that how you're going to mug somebody, then even for that split second, that's the time that I can get away. I can avoid getting hit, or if push comes to shove and you're in what we call DEFCON 1, you're attacking anyway. I mean, I have a structure. I think I've talked about it before. Defense condition 3, 2, 1. There are different levels of range or situation, and when you get to 1, you have to train for this. But it's like if you've switched into 1, it's attack mode. You're going to attack. Otherwise, you leave at DEFCON 2, where they're coming at you. That you put them back off, but they're not get out. But you might not be able to get back. And so when you go into DEFCON 1, psychologically, there's a mental shift in you. You can create mental shifts in other people, even if it's fractions of a second. It's enough just to, I'll have them come to them. People out there, you should try this. Have a student just stand there and have another student walk up on them. This is how I do it. I said, I want you to come up on her like you'd be two ladies. Come up on her. When you get close enough, just start hitting her. You don't even have to touch. You don't even have to touch your opponent. Just, bring yourself forward, and they'll go, oh my God, and they'll start staggering back. You know what I mean? Because I won't tell them that's what they're going to do. And they'll be like, oh my God, oh, all right. And I'm talking about people who've had no training. These are people who are coming in asking me to get them conditioned quickly. Okay. So I'll say, and actually you have to do that through here. And so they'll do it. They'll go backwards like that. I'll say, oh, see what happens, everybody. And everybody goes, oh yeah, that's overwhelming. And then I'll say, okay, Jane, if Jane was the attacker, go stand over there, and I'll go back up to Jane and say, oh, listen, I want you to do exactly the same thing, and just give me a second. Then I'll go over to Sarah, whoever, and say, this is what I want you to do. As that person comes in, let them come in, and all I want you to do is just step back and boom, posture really quick at a particular range. Well, they've done ranging drills, so they know when to do it. You don't want to do it too soon or too late. And just as they come in, just go, bam, take a position. 99.99999% of the time, because I don't tell the other gal what she's going to do it. They'll come in and they're all confident. It's a game. They'll come in confident and they'll start to do it. She'll go, bam, and they'll go, whoa. For a split second, they'll stop. Every time.
Of course.
Even men do it, women do it. Now, if you've learnt your ranging drills, like I teach button drills, and they're basically sensitivity ranging drills. You'll do that at that range. They're in range, and all you have to do, and I've told her the attack what I wanted to do, whether it just could be coming and blast with an inverted kick to the knee to bring the head forward as you blast, poke them in the eyes or punch them. They don't hit them, obviously, but they'll go pop, pop, and the person, the attacker's like, whoa. Not only were they thrown off by the step, they had that cognitive blink and went, oh. Then now you've reversed it on them, see? Right. But they got hit, so they're like, "Wow, okay." Now that's very empowering to especially to women and to men. You don't have to go bang bang. You can just do something as simple as a quick chop to the throat, just to go, just to occupy them.
Okay,
and then take.
I got you. Yeah, you're using what I call distractors. Yeah, we like you always say we think alike a lot. Yep. Okay, we have more comments because we're running out of time. Let's see. Don La says, oh, and hello from California, USA. Thank you. Hello. Scorch 1028 says, I would like to hear Brye Cooper's thoughts on Kenpo clubs, baton. Hold on a second. Let me just say hello, and then we can go there. Vladimir da Silva Javier. Saludos desde Brazil. Maestros. Saludos. Maestro Joe Ribello says, one of the results of being a survivor of various levels of violent attack was to have a complete disregard for my attacker's welfare. I do not care for them or about them. All I care about is unleashing continuous fury upon them because of how I now feel. I ensure that I avoid that at all costs because of what I can do and will do to them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Ribello, for sharing that. That's interesting. Thank you. Can we go on this? We have like a couple of minutes, so.
So, so the question was what I thought on Kenpo clubs.
Yes, sir.
Stick. Well, here's my take on that. Weapons are just an extension of your view. So, your ability to use a weapon is going, whether it be a club, a knife, even a gun, a frying pan. It's going to depend on how skilled you are. Empty-handed.
Right.
I'll give you an example. You know what? Give me 1 sec. I'll show you something. I'll get real quick.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so I know we've only got 30 seconds or so I'll just make this quick. So here's your basic, everybody trains basically with sticks like this, right? If I'm training for somebody if I've trained American Kenpo, for me, I'm working in this within the outer rim, right? Well, you say, okay, well, but that club's a long range weapon. And it is, but it doesn't have to be. It's just something that you guys may want to try or practice. So I can practice it out of range, come back in with it, or I can have somebody in range with me because you might turn into it and then you go, oh no, but the guy's grabbed me. I don't know how to use the club. Well, you just got to use your club and back it up with your, see what I did there? I turned it over and back it up with my lowercase and taking you can't see it, I don't have a dummy here, taking it down. I'm using my arms, my upper case, to drag that person down, and that club just fans over in the sequence of action. It's very quick, and so it's done in this little circle, and yet that's a very big stick. So I don't know if this is what you were asking. When I train with clubs or not anything, I work everything and figure out how to use that weapon in close quarters. The way to do it is to understand that it's just an extension of your own body and what you already know. Start looking for things like that. If just real quick, we'll do, because I mentioned it earlier, parting wings. How would you do parting wings with a club? You just pop it and you change the driver. It's no longer hand driven or elbow driven, it's shoulder driven. It changes everything because the power is coming from here, and it enables me to generate that force at a shorter distance. Then I can use the club to trap, come around, maybe take them down, choke them out, because you don't want to do using weapons. You don't want, like Mr. Abella was just saying something about he has no consideration of the person who attacks him, and I totally understand that, and I hear what he's saying. I would just put a caveat on that, is like, most people are not going to get away with that. You're going to end up in cuffs.
Yeah.
If I'm physically just destroying you and it's done, and I expect to have it done quick, if I don't, I'm in trouble, right? I have consideration somewhere in the sense of, like, it's not a consideration in time, in present time, but I know that I've got to know when to stop. Because then, if I'm in the military, it would only be the military, which I'm not.
Right.
I don't have to stop. I'm taking it to a kill because he's trying to kill me. But anything other than that, whether you're law enforcement, especially with batons now, used to be, when I grew up, I remember police showing up at pubs when there were brawls going on, and within 2 minutes, everybody's heads was pouring. They used to carry what we call truncheons, these little wooden batons in their pockets, and they just going around cracking skulls. You can't do that anymore. That you're going to get jailed for that. So, but anyway, just on that point, I know we're out of time.
Well, the thing is, again, I need to be political correct with this, but that's part of it is part of the fantasy. I'm gonna get the other person and I'm gonna get away with it. No, you need to consider, when we talk about self-defense and we talk about the use of protective force, you need to understand that it's not just the psychophysiological part. There's also an ethical part, there's also a legality, and there's also a sociological approach to it. You have four different things: the sociological impact, or the social, what the society is going to say or think, the ethics, and the law, besides the psychophysiological, the survival part, right? And this is actually something you need to understand and deal with. So, for example, if I don't deal with this, and let's say I'm a big guy, right? I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I'm like 200 pounds, right? So I'm a big guy. So if I get attacked by a smaller guy, let's say I'm attacked by a guy who's like 5'6", 5'7", but who's really aggressive and who has a weapon, and I'm able to disarm the guy because I was lucky, right? Or trained or whatever. So I'm able to disarm, and I keep on hitting him, disregarding, not caring what's going to happen to him, because he did attack me with a knife, but the knife is not there anymore. And I keep on hitting him because I don't care about his. He attacked me and I have the right, and I keep on going at it and take him down, and I keep on hitting him, and I run an extension on him, right? I do the dance of death. Pop, 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 pop. Okay, I will solve the problem. Yes, right? I solved the problem. I ended up the aggression. But then when the police comes, and then they're going to look and say, damn, what the hell, right? Because the guy's going to be, torn apart? Yeah. And then they find out that I knew what I was doing. And it's not that it's illegal, no, but they're going to say, well, then what was your intention? If you knew what you were doing, why you kept on going? And then I'm going to say, because I didn't care what happened to him. Oh, okay, so you're going to be in jail for the next 30 years because of that. So I think that needs to be considered. That's why I'm saying what I teach is to be able to control the problem with the least amount of force, like a police officer is supposed to do, for example, right? Yeah. And that's hard. It's not easy. It is hard.
No, so it should be the first. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so let's leave it there for our next one because we have so much to talk about. But before we go, I will give you the word, just to make a close up, please.
Yeah, just real fast, just to end on that. So basically, what I was saying about the club, to answer that, is like use your club with your Kenpo. Don't use your Kenpo with the club, if that makes sense. Because your art is Kenpo. If you're studying American Kenpo, whatever it is. And then just to finish real quick on what Mr. Soto was saying, the first thing I teach people, it's the first chapter even just in our basic work manual, is legal aspects. And it tells you what you can and can't do. And that prepares a student because then, again, because there's a lot of ego. Ego is just a manifestation of fear, in my opinion.
Right.
And when you get egotistical and you want to start hitting people, that's not the right thing to do. You want to just control that and just not let that take over and just go, look, I know what the trouble is. And like Mr. Rebello said, they're attacking him and I understand all that. You want to be able to walk away and not have your ego like driving you, Just remember that, people. And I'm not saying you have to be humble every time because, humility isn't always a good thing. I don't have to humble myself to anybody. I don't. I just have to know that I have enough knowledge that Sun Tzu, right? The best generals win wars without fighting.
Right.
So everything we're saying here today, don't take anything like we're trying to teach everybody to be crazy-eyed killers. We're not. We're just trying to give you a complete conceptual understanding of what self-defense really is.
Right. And I got to say, that's my opinion, by the way. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I believe that we are training ourselves to be able to be in control when the situation comes, right? You got to have self-control of your mind. You need to be in control up here, you need to be in control here, and you need to be in control here, right? Mind, body, and emotions. And that's not an easy thing to do. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I know. We're going to continue going there, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Rodrigo Sala, Sensei, says real self-defense. Good talk. Best regards to Brye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we'll continue with this. Don't worry, mate. We'll continue with this. Actually, you're going to be back the beginning of next month, if I'm right with that. So, thank you. This is a good thing. We're still going to have this street combative approach. That's what Mr. Cooper is here for. So we are not promoting violence in any way. Exactly the opposite. It's about you learning what violence is so you don't have to go there. That's what it's about. Sir, thank you so much. If somebody wants to contact you.
Street Kombative Systems at gmail.com, or you can go to the website. There's contact on there, streetkombativesystems.com. That's the easiest way to get to me.
Okay, there is the website. Okay, you can check it out. There's also a Facebook page, right?
Yep, I'm on Facebook, Street Kombative System. Yeah.
Okay.
We will have hopefully come June 15th, they're going to open up California now, and I'll start putting up maybe some content for you guys if you want to see it. But just right now, we can't get in. I teach in private gyms and stuff. I don't have a studio. I teach out of the gyms, and those gyms, they're not allowing us to have these group classes.
Right.
But hopefully June the 15th, if they follow through.
Okay, guys, thank you. We're past the hour for 10 minutes now, but thank you, sir. This is amazing. I really appreciate it. I wish we could go longer. Take care, everybody.
Everybody. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.